During the night, about 40 drones attacked 6 regions of Russia. The capture of Kyiv is the only option that would satisfy Putin. The Russian elite is preparing for war with NATO. Ukrainian military destroyed a Russian S-500 air defense missile system, which costs around $600 million. Lukashenko decided Ukraine wants to attack Belarus again. I'm Maria Druska, and today I will tell you a lot of interesting news, so stay with me and watch the video to the end. On Sunday, June 30th, in the night, about 40 drones attacked 6 Russian regions. This was reported by the Russian Ministry of Defense. Supposedly, 15 drones were destroyed by Russian air defense system over the Kursk region, 9 drones over the Lipetsk region, 4 drones each over the Voronezh and Bryansk regions, and 2 drones each over the Oryol and Belgorod regions. It is reported that unmanned aerial vehicles of aircraft type were used in the attack on the regions of Russia. Before I continue, guys, I want to thank all of you who send coffees on Buy Me a Coffee and become Patreon to my channel. Subscribe also to my Twitter page, where I post regular updates about the situation in Ukraine, and to my Instagram, where I show the daily life in Ukraine. By the way, recently some Telegram channels wrote that the Ukrainian Defense Forces preliminarily hit the latest Russian S-500 air defense system in Crimea. The defeat of the installation was reported on June 28th by the influential Ukrainian Telegram channel Division Tivas, which is supposedly linked to the armed forces of Ukraine. Initially, the blogger reported the disabling of the Russian S-500. Later, he clarified that the most expensive part of the complex was destroyed, the radar system, which detects enemy air targets. According to him, ATACMS American missiles in cassette form were used by the Ukrainian armed forces in the strike. It should be noted that there is no official confirmation about this information provided by Today, and as reported, Dialogue UA journalist and military observer Alexander Kushnar commented on the rumors, and he called that, according to Ukrainian intelligence, the Russian transferred actually the S-500 to occupy Crimea in June 2024 in desperate attempt to halt Ukraine's mass strikes on military targets on the peninsula. However, there is no visible special effects from the Russian complex yet. The S-500 was transferred to Crimea about half a month ago, and few days ago, ATACMS covered another important military object on the peninsula, the Space Communications Center near Yevpatoria. The S-500 could not stop these missiles. The main problem with Prometheus is the very small number of missiles, only 2 for each launcher. One launcher can intercept a maximum of 1 ATACMS missile at a time, so to destroy such an installation, it is necessary to launch more than 2 missiles, the journalist added. He noted that destruction of the S-500 it would be a huge reputational blow for Russia. The murder of Lukashenko by the armed forces of Ukraine and the seizure of part of Belarus. Such horrible narratives are spread by Belarusian war correspondents against the backdrop of imaginary Ukrainian offensive in Belarus. Hysteria has begun among them. They see that Ukrainian armed forces are massing troops and weapons at the border. According to them, an attack is planned from 2 directions simultaneously. Belarusian Ministry of Defense reports increased tension on the border with Ukraine because American infantry fighting vehicles, multiple launch rocket systems, heavy long-range artillery, and other equipment are stationed in Zhytomyr region. Belarus believes that Ukrainian saboteurs want to infiltrate the territory. This news has already been picked up by Russian media. Supposedly, Ukraine is preparing to invade Belarus and plans to eliminate Lukashenko. You remember how Lukashenko justified himself when he allowed Russian troops to pass through his territory and invade Ukraine. At that time, he also said that Ukraine was about to attack Belarus and that these were preventive measures. Well, it's interesting whether the Russian aim to instigate something this time, since Russia still dreams of capturing Kyiv. Recall that Ukraine guards its border with Belarus, as is through this country that Russian troops entered the Kyiv region in 2022. And the head of Informational Countermeasure Center of Security and Defense Council of Ukraine said Belarusians' task is to intensify the situation at the border. This is preceded by informational component that is somehow to justify their action. They need to invent certain plots. Capturing Kyiv is only what satisfies Putin. After Ukraine, he may attack a NATO member, Estonia or Latvia, writes Foreign Affairs in analytical article. Russian elite who were against war have reconciled with this and are now discussing what conditions could be considered a victory for Russia. We must win this war, otherwise they, the West, will not leave us alone and Russia will collapse, said one of them. The publication reports that if Russia launches a second campaign with the capture of the Ukrainian capital, it is likely to start an offensive from Belarus as it did in winter 2022, which will include the advance of Russian troops near the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Many in Moscow believe that this time, when the Russian army strengthens and Ukrainian reserves weaken, the country can win. According to the Russian elite, Ukrainians are simply too exhausted to build another fierce defense. Russian oligarchs are not afraid of a nuclear conflict, as they believe NATO will not dare to respond. In their opinion, NATO will be just so panicked and in chaos that they will not be able to do anything. Such a provocation could be particularly used for Russia on the eve of the US presidential elections, the article states. Some of the elite believes that the war in Ukraine serves Putin's political interests and therefore he will continue to fight to the end of his days. And I hope, and everyone hopes, there not so many days last more. Another interesting piece of news, guys. The most dangerous Russian aircraft are simply standing in the sky at airdromes less than 200 kilometers from the border, but due to US restrictions, the armed forces of Ukraine cannot destroy them on the ground. Forbes reports dozens of Su-34s, possibly about half of Russia's active fleet of hypersonic twin-engine fighter bombers, regularly park just skyward on the asphalt of the recently renovated Baltimore base. They are within the reach of Ukraine's best deep strike weapons, American ATACMS missiles. Ukraine potentially can disable the entire operational fleet stationed there if allowed to deliver such a strike, Front Intelligence Insight notes. Well, in my opinion, our partners need to make decisions as quickly as possible so that we can protect the lives of our people, ordinary Ukrainians. And if you guys, my friends, can somehow influence your politicians, senators, and others whose decisions determine the preservation of Ukrainian lives, please do so. Anyway, as always, too many news, too little time. That's it for today, and I want to thank all of you who support Ukraine, watching Ukrainian content. And if you like this video, you can support the channel's development on Patreon or buy me a coffee. See you soon, and Slava Ukraini!